Look at this setup. The remote in your hand is the abstraction, and the TV on the stand is the implementation. You can swap out a Sony for a Samsung, and the remote still works exactly the same. These are two completely separate hierarchies of hardware, but they communicate effortlessly across an invisible structural divide. In software engineering, directly copying this physical independence into your code is known as the bridge pattern. Once you map this everyday physical relationship to its digital equivalent, you will start seeing this architectural seam hiding in plain sight across massive, complex code bases. To understand why this pattern exists, we have to look at the alternative. The naive codebase approach tightly couples abstractions and implementations, hard-coding them together from the start. This diagram illustrates the mathematical threat of that tight coupling. The second a requirement changes, say adding a new remote type or a new TV brand, the code explodes into a chaotic web of m times n subclasses, requiring a unique class for every possible combination. This breaks the system. You are forced to crack open working, tested code over and over again to handle new cases, leaving the architecture incredibly fragile and nearly impossible to test. The bridge pattern acts as a disciplined mathematical reducer out of this chaos. It deliberately severs that hard-coded link, decoupling the two sides so they can evolve entirely on their own. Let's build this piece by piece. Physical objects stay on the left, strict software rules map to the right. First, we define an implementer interface, a generic device blueprint. Client code depends entirely on this, ignoring concrete details below. Below sit concrete implementations, specific TVs or radios. Sharing the same interface makes them interchangeable. Shifting hierarchies, we define the abstraction, the remote control. Its primary job is holding a reference to the device interface we just built. We finish this side with a refined abstraction, which could be a basic remote or a pro model with extra buttons. Notice the discipline up to this point. Every isolated piece we have defined only depends on the abstraction directly above it, setting a clean structural foundation. To bring these separate parts to life, we introduce the client code, which acts as our wiring mechanism. Because the client only interacts with the top-level abstractions, you can snap in a brand new remote or a totally different TV, and the underlying logic requires zero modifications. Looking at the completed diagram, that single connection point spanning from the abstraction directly to the implementer interface is the bridge. This single seam decouples the abstraction from the implementation, serving as the exact mechanism preventing subclass explosion. Isolating components through this one clear line of dependency prevents a system from collapsing under its own weight as it scales. Architecture is an exercise in trade-offs. No design pattern is free. This layout breaks down exactly what you gain and lose. On the plus side, bridge mathematically flattens your complexity down to m plus n classes, allowing both sides to evolve fully independent of one another. But the cost of that pristine separation is the addition of an extra layer of indirection in your codebase, requiring highly complex design work up front. You should reach for this pattern specifically when you are staring down a rapid explosion of subclasses, and you know both the abstraction and the implementation must evolve frequently. Deploy this exact pattern only when the flexibility you need genuinely pays for the structural complexity it introduces. If you find yourself discussing this in a system design interview, there is a common pitfall you need to navigate. It is very easy to confuse bridge with the structurally similar adapter pattern. This visual timeline lays out the distinction clearly. Adapter is a reactionary pattern. It fixes a mismatch after the code is already written. Bridge is structural. It is planned from the very beginning to keep two hierarchies separate. Remember the core rule: decouple abstraction from implementation so each can evolve independently. Knowing how a pattern works is a baseline requirement. Demonstrating the contrast, knowing when and why it differs from its closest imposters, is the ultimate proof of senior engineering judgment.